There's been a lot of rumors circulating about the Switch the past couple weeks. People are trying to figure out what games are going to get announced for 2020. There's a Nintendo Direct coming up, so everyone's trying to figure out what's going on there. And there's even additional rumors that we're going to have a second Nintendo Direct in February. So, of course, with all these things being talked about, I had to make a video talking about the Wii U.
Yeah, fist bump.
You know, as much as I love the Wii U, it needed to fail for us to get the Switch.
What? Oh, it is time for Wii U.
Hot buttered popcorn, that's a deal.
The Wii U is really interesting to me because I don't know about you guys, but it's really weird for me to think about the fact that just 3 years ago, the Wii U was basically the main console for Nintendo. And in that short span of time, the Nintendo Switch has been so successful and the Wii U was abandoned so hard that it's kind of hard to even think about a time that that was being used as your main go-to console. At least for those of us that actually bought one. And while I think it's easy just to look at the Wii U on the surface level and go like, oh yeah, wow, that thing failed really hard, I think it's really important to actually look into why it failed and how it relates to the Nintendo Switch right now. Because I think it actually kind of stands as proof against something that a lot of people love to argue when it comes to, which system is the best or what one people should buy. And this is an argument I myself have made where we fall back on this concept of, at the end of the day, it's just the games that matter. And the Wii U is kind of the opposite of that. I would argue that the Wii U, in fact, had actually some of the best first-party titles that Nintendo's had in quite some time, especially compared to its predecessor, the Wii. And yet, the Wii was a massive success, the Wii U flopped, and much of the best games on its library have now experienced a new life on the Switch that kind of proves that they were in fact great games, it's just no one cared at the time. To really get this point across, let's take a look at sales numbers real quick. Nintendo just ended their last fiscal year where they posted all the sales for the Switch and it also gave us updated numbers for how some past systems have performed and all the individual top-selling games in each of those systems. Now, for the Switch right now, the Switch has sold 52 million units. Basically. And at the same time, the top-selling game on it is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which has sold roughly 22.5 million units. So that individual game right there has sold that many. And keep in mind, that is a game that originally released on the Wii U. Now, for comparison, the Wii U, in its lifespan, sold 13.5 million units. As a reminder, Mario Kart 8 on the Switch has sold 22. It's almost hitting the point where eventually it's going to climb to twice the number of sales that its original home system ever hit. Doesn't that sound insane to you? Because that sounds insane to me. The fact that the #1 selling game on the Switch, which to be fair, part of that is because it's a bundled game, whatever, fine. The point is that it has sold so many units on the Switch that it is now passed up its original console in lifetime sales and is still continuing to grow. And again, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the top-selling Switch game to date. More than Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, more than Pokemon games, more than Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey. All of those have not sold as many units as a game that originally released on the Wii U several years prior. And while Mario Kart 8 is certainly, I think, the best example to look at, it's not the only one. A lot of the Wii U's best titles have gotten some kind of new life on the Switch, and in many cases are selling better than they did on their original platform. Whether they're direct ports like we got with Captain Toad and Bayonetta 2, or games that were kind of enhanced remakes with a couple new features, like we just got Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Or there's even games that didn't technically get ported, but they got direct sequels that are effectively just meant to replace those games, like Mario Maker 2 or Splatoon 2. Really, a good example of this too recently that I want to talk about is the huge success of the Wonderful 101 Kickstarter. Now, if you're not familiar with this game, it was an exclusive title on the Wii U that did not sell super great. It got good reviews, but no one really bought it, especially because in general, no one really bought Wii U's. But the point is that they announced a Kickstarter for it where they said, hey, we want to bring this over to the Switch. We also want to add it to another couple of platforms like Steam and PS4. Can you guys help fund us to get the goals we need? And in less than 5 minutes, it hit its initial funding goal to move to the Switch, and in the course of that same day, made it all the way to $500,000 to bring it to the PS4. There's that much demand for this game that, again, didn't do super great on its original platform, and yet clearly people are interested in being able to actually play it. This is something we've talked about a few times where we're talking about just the general history of Nintendo and how different systems have done, and there's a lot of different factors, I think, that contribute to why the Wii U didn't end well. And I think some of it's really important to break down what the goal was for Nintendo and how that kind of mismatches why the Switch itself is working out as a success. See, part of the point of the Wii U being released is that Nintendo wanted something that could actively compete more with some of the other modern systems of its time. Despite the fact that the Wii was selling really well, they weren't a huge fan of the fact that people were kind of thinking it as the casual option and not something that real gamers should necessarily buy, where people were pushing towards the 360, the PS3. A large part of this was, again, the Wii did not support 1080p. It wasn't exactly a super great looking system compared to the competition. And so, moving into the Wii U, Nintendo wanted to make a 1080p capable system that was going to be something a lot more powerful. Obviously, this wasn't the only goal for the Wii U. They did have other design ideas in mind, including the fact that they had the tablet screen setup, which was this kind of the idea of almost turning it into a giant 3DS. Personally, I loved it, but it confused a lot of people. And the way a lot of this ended up playing out is that no one really knew what the Wii U was. Despite the fact that it had some great first-party titles and a whole year head start on PS4 and Xbox One, no one really cared. Part of this was because people weren't really sure what was going on with it. Some people, even to this day, think that the Wii U wasn't actually a new console. They thought the tablet was just an add-on to a regular Wii and that was it. And that's not what it was. It was a whole new system, but people didn't realize that and weren't really interested in spending that much money on what they thought was just an upgrade. Now, to be fair to the whole argument of great games make a great system, while the Wii U did have some amazing first-party titles, it didn't have a whole lot in terms of third parties. At launch, it got a couple of very late ports of games that were on 360 and PS3, like Mass Effect 3. There were not a lot of brand new games being made by third parties. There were a couple that did end up working out pretty well, but in general, it just didn't have that support. I think the important lesson to take away when you look at the Wii U and the Switch and how they kind of relate to each other is that while good games are certainly, I think, an important factor in making a good console, you also just need to have a console that the concept makes sense to people. When it comes to systems like the Xbox or PlayStation, it's a concept most people understand. You buy the system, hook it up to your TV, use a controller, you play games. Nintendo, on the other hand, likes to be a little more experimental and weird, and in the case of the Wii U, it did not pay off at all, but in the case of the Switch, it worked out wonderfully because it is visually such a simple, cool concept to sell people on. It's a handheld, it's a TV dock, it's both, it's all in one system that's constantly modulating between these two designs, and it's something that you can visually tell someone very easily. The Wii U did not have that benefit, and in fact, a large part of that is because I think Nintendo never really truly invested in the thing that made it truly unique and interesting, which was the dual screen setup. You know, you look at a lot of the games that have now been ported from the Wii U to the Switch, and you realize, well, yeah, none of those games have anything uniquely interesting making use of those two screens, so it's pretty easy to adapt to this other console. I think a really good example of something that did show off this strength is the one game we'll probably never see get ported off of it, Nintendo Land. Nintendo Land was the bundled game with Wii U, kind of like they did with Wii Sports on the Wii, where the main point of it was to showcase how this kind of unique setup works. And it is one of my favorite party games to this day. It has this one particular minigame where it's Luigi's Mansion that kind of works out as this kind of hide and seek thing, where the one person with a tablet is trying to evade and get around all the other players, and they can't see where he is or what he's doing because he's on the tablet. It was this really cool use of this unique concept of the Wii U that absolutely no games afterwards really made use of. A large part of the reason why I wanted to make this video and just sort through all these thoughts is because personally, I loved the Wii U. I think that system had so much potential for being something truly unique and standout, and it never really realized that. And thankfully, a lot of the games that I love on it have at least gotten this second chance on the Switch. Not all of them have come over yet, but we're getting to the point where, realistically, there's only 4 or 5 left. I'm not gonna take the time to list them all, especially because I know some people have their own opinions about what games need to be ported, but here's a few of them. The point is that I think the Wii U was this amazing console that never really got the chance it needed, and while I'm sad to see that, I am really glad that a lot of its games are at least now getting the second life they deserve on the Switch. Because again, a lot of these titles are just straight up outselling not only their original launch, but even the Wii U itself. I guess what I'm really trying to say is, play Wonderful 101 when it comes out. Just do it. Like, just back it right now. The Woo girls are trying to come out, guys. We gotta hurry. The chorus will only be rising more.